So starting this off, we're going to go to Katie McPherson. You have been a liaison between some of these families in the East Valley who have been victimized by this teen violence. Can you just speak to the magnitude of this problem?
I mean, I became aware of it in December of 22 when one of my dear friend's sons was also attacked at an In-N-Out in Gilbert with brass knuckles. And so that was my first experience hearing about this group. I've been working with teenagers for 30 years, so certainly in our schools we have students that make poor decisions using weapons and other things. But as the spring went on, this group continued to sort of escalate. And then when Preston died and I became aware of that, I realized that we had multiple victims that were close to me, dear friends of mine whose sons had been attacked as well. Oddly, I also had connected in the spring with the Durkin family, which, you know, Cave Creek is at least 60 miles from where I live, but the same type of assault had happened in North Phoenix. So we're seeing a trend. We're seeing a trend in the East Valley. We're seeing a trend across the valley, nationwide. I work closely with Dr. Krasnow on these types of issues and always going to him for advice. So I'll let him speak to the root cause of the issue. But the magnitude is every day that I wake up, another mom reaches out and says, I don't know what to do. This actually happened to us. We didn't report because my son asked us not to, or we were so terrified that we were getting threats from this group that we decided not to, and now we're ready because of the courageousness of Mr. Keener and others.
Yeah, and Mayor Wheatley, the most tragic case obviously happened in the town of Queen Creek. The murder of 16-year-old Preston Lord. Just recently, you were at a town council meeting. You heard from community members. People are heartbroken and they're frustrated because of the lack of what they feel is the lack of justice. No one has been officially arrested. What is your reaction to what you heard?
I share their frustration. I share their concern. I want to acknowledge my condolences to the Lord family, yeah, and everyone that's experienced teen violence. So I want to acknowledge that first and foremost, the loss of such a precious life.
And you're a mother too?
I'm a mother too, and a mother of 4, similar ages. I also consider myself a mother of 76,500 people, because that's when I accepted this role, that's what I was stepping into. And I feel the exact same way to provide that level of safety concern for not only Queen Creek residents, but as we know, this is a regional issue.
It happens everywhere, yeah. Dr. Krasnow, you spoke, Katie was just speaking to this, the uniqueness kind of the violence that we're seeing, this group attack style. It's not just one-on-one, 2 people who have beef with each other and then, you know, they fight it out. This is 5 on 1 person, very aggressive, very violent. What do you make of that?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with all of you and to be a part of this. It's important to understand that violence is behavior, and all behavior is reinforced by something. Mm-hmm. And whether it's an episodic behavior, something that is between 1 or 2 people one time, or something that is more continuous or persistent, it's important to look at what might be reinforcing those behaviors. So if you look at violence perpetrated by groups of people on a single person or on other people, that doesn't come out of nowhere, that persists, exists because something has allowed those people to see that as positive, normative, reinforced. There's somebody in their environment, either in their near environment or at a distance through technology, that are reinforcing that is something to do. If there weren't those reinforcers, the behavior would not persist. Yeah. And so when we're having these conversations, and I hope we continue that today and beyond, when we have those conversations about what those reinforcers are, we have to take a hard look at all of our behavior. What is it that we're doing that would make this more likely? What is happening in the environment to make it less likely that people would be an upstander? What is our role in that as educators, as community members, as elected officials, as law enforcement, in maintaining that behavior and ending that behavior?
And what about the pandemic? Post-pandemic effects on our youth's mental health. How much of that is a factor?
Well, in this particular case, I can't know for sure. What I do know is that the pandemic taught us a number of things. In addition to all the lessons that we learned about disease and the challenges associated with the impact on society, it reminded us of something that was always true, is that we're entirely interconnected. Mm-hmm. And whether we're interconnected in a community or we're interconnected by the transmission of a disease, we are inextricably tied. And so when there are influences, whether those are negative influences on mental health or challenges in the community, it absolutely necessarily has an impact on other people besides ourselves. And so if there are negative impacts from mental health post-pandemic, if there are challenges in a community, that means the entire community will feel that. They'll feel it either directly in the cases that we're talking about this, or they'll feel it indirectly, a feeling in the community of lack of safety, a feeling in the community of lack of trust, or the converse in the healthiest communities. I feel safe here. I can trust my neighbors. I can trust my elected officials. I can trust my educators. I can trust law enforcement.
I want to get to the folks on this side of the stage, but Mayor, if I may, and I ask this respectfully, but you heard the reaction when I mentioned that Mark Lamb was the only member of law enforcement that showed up. Why isn't your chief of police here?
Our chief of police, you know, this is something we were talking about having a press conference today. It is something that he wants to be out in front of. The thing that's frustrating that we're hearing from a lot of constituents, people from around the valley, is information about the case, which, as we know, it's an ongoing active investigation, and there's very little details at this point that we can share as far as the investigation itself.
The FBI has gotten involved, correct?
The FBI has.
Right. But you understand, as a politician and as a resident, a mom, that perception is reality.
Understand.
And the perception is that the two police agencies that we named, Queen Creek and Gilbert, are staying out of the fray and are not coming up and facing the music, so to speak, at these town council meetings.
So if I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Just last Wednesday, we did get another update from myself and Captain Bryce from the town of Queen Creek, providing as much information as we can. I will tell you, the officers, the investigators that we have working on this case work tirelessly. Before Christmas, they had not taken one single day off in over 2 months. Since Christmas, I think they've maybe taken one off around the holidays. It's top priority. Chief Bryce's lack of appearance tonight is not any indication to this not being the town of Queen Creek's top priority. I can tell you from the mayor's standpoint, and we're doing everything we can to work. Like I said, I don't think that man actually sleeps.
Yeah.
With how much he has going on with with a brand new police department.
Yeah.
We started just 2 years ago, and recognizing this is something that they have recognized from the beginning is, and we'll speak to teen mental health and how that has been a concern and something that they are watching and tracking. And so we're providing information as we can. And so again, I understand the frustrations, the concerns, and as soon as there's more information that we can offer on the case itself, he will be the first to notify the public on that.
Well, we appreciate your being here, Mayor.
Absolutely.
As a representative for the city. Sheriff Lamb, what is the responsibility of law enforcement in your mind, and why are these cases so hard to close?
Look, as a law enforcement guy, I think first and foremost is to protect our community. Number two, to protect constitutional rights. And I want to say my heart goes out to the Lord family and to families of many of the victims of this type of teen violence. You know, not long after that, we had an assault in our community, which you saw. We went after those guys. We also had a homicide right in that same time frame. There was a lot of worry about whether these were all intertwined. And so we take these very serious. I think that we have a responsibility, and I know that Queen Creek's working hard. We're working with Queen Creek and Gilbert. I will tell you, these are extensive cases. Even the one we worked with only a handful of people, there's a lot of search warrants that need to be pulled. There's a lot of interviews that need to be done. There's a lot of lineups that need to be done. There's a lot that goes into it. We have been putting these as top priority, any cases with youth. And, I'm one of those strong believers that you can interact very openly with your community. And I found that when I interact openly with my community, they take that and they accept it, good or bad. I've had to deliver a lot of hard messages that didn't go very well for me. But that's something that I've really believed in. I will tell you, I know they are working hard, and it's a tough case. And there's a lot of cases. It's not like when a case happens, cases stop. Every day there's more and more and more cases that get stacked. So, but I just want to say, first and foremost, I worked hard for the Lord family on anything that had to do with this group of kids that was involved in any act of violence. And if it brings some type of peace to the families that are victims of this, that's what my job is.
Okay. Sheriff, thank you. Kristen, as an educator, from where you sit, what is going on with our kids attacking with social media? And maybe that's the root cause of this, or at least one of them, other kids, and then posting it online.
I can say this. It's going to sound cliche, but it is fundamentally true. Hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. And until schools start to take some responsibility in addressing these hurts, we're putting a Band-Aid over a gaping wound. You see many students, over 18 years of being a high school principal, when students would come into my office specifically for violent issues, they'd willingly hand over guns, drugs, pipes, because we started the question with, where did your day go wrong? Did you eat breakfast this morning? Talk to me about what happened. And 9 times out of 10, if I'm being frank with you, the day went wrong before they stepped foot on our campus. I absolutely believe that it is every administrator's job to make sure that safety is a top priority, but it is equally important that when a student walks through our doors, we give them respect, we make sure that they feel heard, but we absolutely make sure that they feel loved and that they belong on that campus.
Eric, she said something very important. Hurt people hurt people. You were in a gang. You lived a violent life before you turned things around. Were you hurt?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I did not realize that I was hurt. I didn't realize what I was doing, but I've just kind of came to that recently within the past year through trauma therapy, kind of figuring out where my problem, lied. And it was, like I said, I was trying to get validation from all these other sources. I was trying to get attention from all these other sources. And I believe that's what these kids are doing as well. They just don't, I grew up with a single mom. She was an alcoholic. She tried her best, but she wasn't, I was pretty much free to run the streets. So I went to juvenile for the first time when I was 11 years old. I've done probably over 22 years locked up, 18 years in a row as an adult. And these kids must be very hurt. They must be very hurt. They're looking for something from their parents, something from the community, something, it's not normal to do these things.
Right.
Can I just, we started, when I came as sheriff, we started seeing a lot of these issues with kids, and so we started a youth redirection program. We didn't know what we were going to do, and not without going all into the background. I finally went to the county attorney and said, let's put this group together where I get a chance to communicate with these kids before it goes to the county attorney, before it goes to the courts. And we put a class together. I was teaching the classes, goal setting and planning, digital media, social media, sexting, the danger of those things, drugs and alcohol, and we'd do a career night. And then we would do 8 hours of community service where they would go through horse therapy. And what I found is that the majority of these kids had very low self-esteem. They were coming from broken homes, some of them. They just were really struggling with finding some identity. They were hurt. Mm-hmm. And when we would embrace them and try to bring the light out of them is when you would really start to see them come through. We've had over 200 kids go through this program since I started. We've had 5 reoffend in that amount of time.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's something that, you know, I really see as a lack in the community. We need more of that, more mentorship.
Broken kids
Yes.
that then perpetrate this violence.
Yes.
Well, and I think what you look for is these kids look for light. You take a Preston Lord, light. They look to see what they want, and they actually don't like it. They try to destroy what makes them feel bad about
Because
themselves.
they don't have that.
And
light.
what we find is the victims are oftentimes kids who feel good about themselves, who do come from
Yes.
good families, and oftentimes become victims of kids who don't.